Both of the supervisors on November 15th pulled me in with Doug Edwards, another employee, and said, "Congratulations, you've been through hell, you made it, you got shot, you've been through hell, you made it." And then mysteriously I got pulled in the office and said, "You're not getting along, we want you to go back on probation." And I said, "Wait a minute, you already told me I'm permanent." She said, "No, you don't have enough hours, you lost them when you got shot." And I said, "I'm not signing that." And she said, "You are fired, see you later." So, and that's how she operates. That's how this lady operates.
So other people are intimidated as well by her?
Oh, all these painters over here. It's not a comfortable environment. That's why I didn't sign the paperwork, because I don't want to go, work underneath that kind of hostility environment where I'm afraid of getting pulled in the office in front of all the supervisors and they're grilling me. About what? About being shot? Well, they said I deviated from the job location. I wasn't driving the truck. I didn't deviate anywhere. I was doing what I was told.
Were you on a city truck?
Yes, a city vehicle. 6 times we got shot. Paloux, 3rd and Paloux, 8:30 in the morning. I mean, ridiculous.
It wasn't easy. It was, I was only here for a year or so, so I didn't get to see her too much. But she was tough.
One of the issues that has been raised at this rally here, this protest, is the issue of nepotism, cronyism, friends getting jobs. Is that a problem?
Wow. The first painter I ever worked for right out of high school was a guy named John F. Peters. He was one of the first painters to paint the Golden Gate Bridge. And every time I'd ask him a question like, how do I fold that drop cloth, or how do I clean that brush, and he'd look at me and tell me, if you don't know, then I can't tell you. And if you don't know, then nobody can tell you. Does that?
And what is the city's position in negotiating with your new union? Why did you form a new union?
Well, that's a long story. I'll try and summarize it. Well, we just didn't feel like we were getting representation, proper representation. We felt that there was a total lack of union democracy in the organization that we were with, and that we had actually become hostages of an organization rather than members. We were hostage members, and so, the straw finally broke the camel's back, and we decertified and started our own union.
What does that mean by hostage?
Well, we felt that was a scenario because of the fact that they were imposing a 300% dues increase, which was voted on at the district council level without the vote of the rank and file. When they did take a vote of the rank and file on the question, 3 votes came out not to raise the dues, and he decided, well, they were going to do it anyway. And so that was the proverbial straw.
And what kind of representation did you have at that time on the job?
I was trying to cover
well, you could ask some of these guys. I had only actually filed 1 grievance with that union, and all my questions were all answered. That's what kind of representation I got. So.
Okay. Is this the first public action your union has had out here, the San Francisco City Workers United Union?
This will be our first public action, exactly. That's right. We formed, our actual incorporation date was January of 2012, January 30th, 2012, and it's been a slow process of, organizing and educating the members and decertifying, going through the decertification process, and forming the new union. And since we formed the new union, it's been a bit of a controversy over agency shop, which is where, as a condition of continued employment, you be a member of the union or you pay dues or fees. I'm sorry. And that was the scenario that we had just come out of. We have just recently voted to enact or implement the agency shop. I voted against it. I'm not for agency shop. I feel that members should be members because they want to be members and pay the union money because they feel like it's going to a good cause. That's my own personal issue. The rank and file run this union from the grassroots, from the ground up, and so it's a truly democratic union here.
I've been started this with Doug and Jerry Maxwell, and we're just here to support our brothers because there's bullying going on in the city. I've worked for the city for 16 years, and I'm in the airport department, and I've seen incidents where people haven't been promoted or people been overlooked, and because they didn't fit the criteria of the supervisors. So, I'm just out here, to that everybody has a fair shot and that people can join unions and we have rights, and that's the thing. We're not living in a third world country. It's not for the good. The cause is for everybody. It's not. No one's out here individually. It's an inclusive, and we just want to be here and show good faith that we're behind them, and that they don't have to work under, bullying and.
What kind of bullying exactly are you talking about? What do they do to bully people?
I think they're forcing people to work certain hours, and that there was some overtime that we got a contract between 6 and 4:30 is our regular work schedule, and after that should be time and a half, and I believe that in certain instances down here that they haven't paid time and a half, they paid 10%, rather than time and a half. Medical insurance, so it's probably cheaper in the long run, but it's been proven that a union worker is more productive and knowledgeable than these non-union trades people. So it's what the benefits, that there's plus and minuses, but San Francisco was a union town. Seattle used to be a union town, it's no longer a union town. San Francisco is the one last bastions here, and we have to stand, that we have a right for working conditions, and what unions stand for, they got a fair day's wage for a fair day work with safety, that it's not back to the 30s where people were cutting each other's throats to get a job. It's for the rich boys. I don't belong to the St. Francis Yacht Club, and I've got no intention to.
But do you think that's who the city is being run for these days?
Well, of course, I think so. I think the city is looking out for the investors and such thing, and it's all making a buck. I think it's just to make the fast buck. And that's the thing, and if it just means that you cut wages, then that's the bottom line. We all know wages is the mainstay of any job. If you're producing anything, it's the wages, and then if you can cut medical and make, like they did in the banks, put a lot of people part time, then they didn't have to have benefits and such thing. So that's the bottom line. It's cutting the benefits.
So they want to make everybody temporary and no permanent work?
Yeah, well, they have as needed now. They've got more as needed because it's cheaper and they don't have to pay benefits, so they can have them for 6 months. So, and then give them the false impression that they're going to hire them at the end of the 6 months, and then they'll get a new lot. So it's just a spiral that they can do. And that's the bullying tactics that they can use these as needed. Instead of permanence.
They want. So it's easier to intimidate and bully temporary workers.
Yeah, I think so. They wouldn't call it that. They'd probably say, suggestions. They'd say suggestions, and that's your interpretation. But everything's left to everybody's interpretation.
Now here they've changed the rules without consulting the union. Is that what's going on here?
They used to start at 6 o'clock, but then they gave them like about a week's notice that they had to start at 7 o'clock. Well, if people are travelling 50, 60 miles from the East Bay and they've got childcare or they've got to get their kids somewhere, then it's very disruptive, and if you've got them in childcare, you're either paying less or more, or because you don't have to get the kid there early. So I'm sure there's an impact on some people that it's affected, but the bottom line is they're doing what they want to do. It's within the scope of our work, our conditions, but you'd think you'd talk to the union without just changing the hours, and give them a heads up and say this is what's going to happen because X, Y, and Z. But they just did it, And now we got daylight saving, so they could have started at 6. It would, they could have started a little late. It's light at 7, but it's going to come to 6, and it's going to be lighter. So.
Dan Johnson, former SF MTA painter. was terminated after being shot on the job June 17th, 2011. Was told I was permanent November 15th, my 1-year anniversary, in front of Doug Edwards, another employee that works at the SF MTA painter. Later I was pulled in the office and said I wasn't getting along with the workers. Toni Coe then said you need to go back on probation, and I refused to sign the paperwork. I was terminated that day after having a disability from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Now talk about what happened. You were shot. What was that all about?
8:30 in the morning I was shot with Ron Donaldson. 8:30, leaving the shop, going to get gas at DPW. We were randomly open fire after leaving his residence to get his cell phone. I was a passenger. I was struck in the back. I was later written up by Toni Coe.
And who is Toni Coe?
Toni was a supervisor at SF MTA, sign shop manager. She rules under fear and intimidation. And if you speak up about any kind of labor dispute, mechanical equipment failure, we need better equipment, she'll throw you under the bus.
You mean health and safety issues?
Yes.
Workers are being retaliated against for raising health and safety issues?
That's right. If you raise any kind of concerns, she'll pull you up in the office and she puts some fear into you, I'll tell you. I was scared every day. And that's why I didn't sign the paperwork, because I didn't want to be ruled by her goons. So I didn't sign it, and then she terminated me while I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and I had the doctors from the psychiatrist.
So even though you had been injured on the job as a result of being shot, they still terminated you. You were on disability.
Correct. Workman's Comp said my injury was not work-related, so therefore I filed a lawsuit. 6 days later, she terminated me after I filed the lawsuit with Workman's Comp.
What does this mean for city workers when they're kind of treated like this?
This is bad for the worker, period. Bad for the worker. She rules by intimidation. She can't do the things she does. I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm still suffering from it right now. She released me while I had that disability, and I have documentation from the doctor.
Supported my union member. I'm not familiar with everything that's been happening, but it sounds like to me like somebody's been let go unfairly. It looks like he had finished his probation. He got injured, shot, and was under medical care. And then once he thought he had finished probation, they basically yanked his job from underneath him. Sounds to me like due process sure wasn't served. Anyway, what's really bad about this is it's one human being sort of mistreating another. Would she want to be treated that way as far as Toni Coe? You should always treat people the way, you want to be treated. So, if you want to be treated fairly, and with respect, you need to put that out also. Well, you can't say that's been happening here. So it's very, really unfair as far as business-wise, as far as union, but also just being a human being. Where's your compassion here? Did he do anything wrong? As I understand, he was a very good painter. Seems to me you would want to keep a good worker.
So, and it's dangerous working, getting shot, and then this is what happens to you.
That's the other thing. I don't know all the legalities of it, but it seems to me, aren't you protected for something like that in the city? I thought there were protections for that. I don't know all the rules and regulations. His fault in nature, you'd be punished from that? That doesn't seem legal or correct or right. Morally unjust is what I'm kind of getting away from this, So that's why we're here to support him. It's because if it could happen to him, it could happen to anybody, and not just in this profession, any other trade, anybody in the city.
So you think that there's an epidemic of bullying and just a disregard of human rights or worker rights in the city?
Well, it's funny. Bullying seems to be come to the forefront, but it is a form of bullying. You're using a power over other people, and not using it properly. Even the President of the United States basically is bullying the nation as far as his policies. A lot of people don't want it, and basically it's a form of bullying. If you have power, you can bully. Well, she's in basically a superintendent position, so she can use her power to bully people and intimidate people. And then, especially if you're working for a city government and you sort of represent what's right, and you're supposed to represent the laws, seems to me that you're being contradictory there. And so just on a moral standpoint, it sounds very unjust. You know, and isn't that what laws are based on? Basically morals, what's right and wrong? Can Toni Coe actually say this is correct, this is right? You know, I'd like to see her on the other side of this. I wonder if she was that person and somebody was treating her that way. Would she be complacent about it and say, that's correct? No, I don't think so. There's just common sense is missing in all this, and just humanity. You know, so I don't know what else to say about it, but it bothers me on just a human level that you would treat Miss people like that.
Okay. So, are you guys representing the union here?
No, sir.
Who do you represent?
I'm not representing anybody. We're just some citizens walking around.
Do you have any comment on what happened with the painters union, why the painters in San Francisco and the city and county of San Francisco voted to decertify the union?
No comment.
You think it's a dangerous thing for the union? Are you with the Painters District Council? Are you with the Painters District Council? Are you with the Painters Union?
I'm a citizen just out here supporting.
Are you a member of the Painters Union?
The workers.
Are you supporting this? Are you supporting this picket line?
You wouldn't
are you
supporting these workers on this picket?
Are you aware of the violation of the conditions here for workers? You don't know anything about it?
I think that gentleman with the bullhorn would know more than we would. He's been
I interviewed one worker who said he was fired after being here a year, and they ignored his fact that he passed his probation.
Yeah.
And they said he was fired and fired upon, shot at, and then they fired him even though he was on disability. You don't know anything about it?
No.
It's another form of intimidation. They might call it, you know, straightening counselling, or, you know, whatever spin they want to put on it, but the bottom line is you do as I say, not do as I do. You know, that's the bottom line. And you know,
but these people don't even represent the workers here, do they?
No. They're just.
Did they ever organize any protests against bullying while they were in power here?
Of course not. No, it's only because the new union's coming in, because they're taking care of our members. They didn't care about our membership. They just cared about the dues. And that's why they wanted to raise them up astronomically. You know, we were paying $60 and they wanted to raise it up to nearly $200, which is ridiculous. We're not electricians. We're not IT people. We're painters. We're at the bottom of the level, basically. You know, I think window washers are making nearly the same as us. So, you know, union window.
You have a lot of problems with cancer and chemicals.
Of course, yeah, and heights and such thing. And you know, so it's not as if we don't deserve what we get, and we're living in San Francisco. It's not like we're living in Boise, Idaho, and I've got nothing against Boise, Idaho.
But most of your members can't even afford to live here anymore.
No, they live in the East Bay. They travel. You know, I'm fortunate enough that I live in the city, but a lot of these live in the East Bay because of affordable housing, and that's why there was an issue about the shift change from 6 to 7, which was convenient for the people who travel. That they were doing a reverse commute and they were getting out before the traffic. So that you know, the travelling time might have only been an hour. It's probably an hour and 45 minutes now.
So the manager, apparently, this Toni Coe, really doesn't care about that situation.
Well, apparently she doesn't. She never. They did do some sort of process of, you know, whether they wanted to change or not, but you know, a lot of people were sort of intimidated that if they spoke up that there'd be retribution. So, you know, regardless of, you know, taking numbers who would like to start at 7 or like to start at 6, I think it was already being decided. So I don't think that a lot of people had any say, because they felt that their jobs were in jeopardy.
Do you work for this department?
Yeah, I'm the manager of this department.
Our PR.
Who's your PR person?
Paul Rose, and 1 South Van Ness.
Is this the first time you've had a picket here?
I know.
It seems like you got some angry people here.
I don't know what their beef is.
Who's the manager? Who's above you?
Toni Coe.
Was this Toni Coe? Oh,
He's the manager.
Are you Toni Coe?
Yeah, I'm the manager of field operations.
So can you talk about what's happening?
No, you have to talk to our I don't even know who these guys are.
You think they're painters?
I've never met any of these guys.
Are your members unhappy here? Are your workers that you supervise unhappy here? They say you changed the rules here, the hours of work, without negotiating with the union. Do you have any comment on that?
I can't make a comment.
You did or didn't, or you don't want to talk?
I can't make a comment. Paul Rose handles all of our PR. You have to talk to him.
Okay, so this is a PR issue.
Nathaniel Ford was the director at the time, and he came to our hospital site, and I was on probation at the time, so was worried about being released. And Bon Yi, the director of the SF MTA, he gave me his business card. He assured me that I would not be terminated or released from my position, and that's exactly what happened once this got in the hands of Toni Coe.
No.
They retaliated against the worker?
Ford transferred to New York City, so he's no longer with them, so I had no recourse to go back and talk to him. Bon Yi, I wrote him, I wrote the mayor, I wrote Leland Yi, because he's a personal friend of mine, and I was trying to get them to respond to this, and to no avail.
So I mean,
what happened on him?
What happened to your fellow worker who went to the?
He was permanent. They could not fire him.
What happened to him from that when you got the shot?
After you got shot, what happened? He went to the hospital with you, or he was retaliated for?
He went to see how I was doing, and they told him, "Why are you off base?" And it says, "My friend, I'm with him." They said, "Well, you need to get back to work." So then he left, and there I was. And they assured me they would not get rid of me, and they did exactly that. They made up an excuse to get rid of me. They said I was no longer working hard, after they told me I was permanent.
So I
wrote the mayor.
What did you write him?
I wrote him a short letter stating exactly what happened, and I, Bon Yi said I would not be terminated, and I was in fact terminated, and he would not respond to my emails or my letters or anything. So that's where that was.
What does that say about the city of San Francisco? A worker who's doing his job is shot on the job, and then he's retaliated against by the city after being shot on the job for doing his work?
Well, they said I deviated from my location. They said I deviated, but I was not driving the vehicle. I was the passenger. So how could I deviate when I'm not driving the vehicle? Period.
So it sounds pretty unfair.
It's shockingly unfair. Bad for the worker, period.
Everything of value is gone. Just keep going over and over again for the next 5 years if he wanted to. If he doesn't want to keep going through the thing,
what's happening with contracting out and outsourcing here in the city?
They're just trying to, the lowest bid, and they don't care about unions, and the cheapest price will prevail, and then the big bosses get the kickbacks from all the the money they saved.
So the manager here at Coe hired a non-union company to work in this shop?
Toni Coe hired a non-union company to do all the work for our dressing rooms, and all the lighting. The bathrooms was all basically undocumented workers and non-union workers. And if you speak about the union, she has a problem with you, and she will address it very quickly.
And so in other words, even though this is a city facility, they're having non-union people come in here doing the work when city workers or people in the community or union could be doing the work.
Absolutely, and we need the work for our union members to keep our union strong. It helps everybody.
So who's benefiting by this outsourcing?
Toni Coe is benefiting by this. Well, that's a good one there. There you go, brother. Read it. Come on, Marty. Come on, Marty. This is for you. Popular lady.